In the Gospel of Mark, it is made clear that envy was at the root of why Jesus was crucified. It states, "But Pilate answered them, saying, Will ye that I release unto you the King of the Jews? For he knew that the chief priests had delivered him for envy. But the chief priests moved the people that they should rather release Barabbas unto them. And Pilate answered and said again unto them, What will ye then that I shall do unto him whom ye call the King of the Jews? And they cried out again, Crucify him." Well, if envy motivates a person to want to destroy the one he or she envies, then what is envy? Well, some dictionaries define envy as a feeling of discontented or resentful longing that's aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, etc. Well, the words discontent, resentful, and longing denote deep-seated emotions that's based on comparisons. That's how you arrive at envy. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated that an envious person will kill you. Those are his words. And the Gospels affirm that, since Jesus was crucified because of envy. Now, Brother Jabril sheds additional light on the subject of envy. He states, "The Honorable Elijah Muhammad once put me on a study of envy. One fact that stood out for me in this study was that envious people always slander others when this spiritual illness develops to a certain stage." Always? Yes, always. Now, later in this message, we will discuss how to avoid being the victim of the ploys of an envious person or envious people, particularly their objective in invoking us to hate those whom they envy. Now, of course, taking time to discern between what is fact and relevant, apart from what is pointless, false, and slanderous, will help us avoid the bites of such serpent-like people. Now, did Judas betray Jesus for the same reason? That is, for envy. Well, let's read through the prophetic scene that alludes to Judas's motive for turning against Jesus. Again, from the Gospel of Mark, it states, "And being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat," meaning Jesus, "there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard or spikenard very precious. And she brake the box and poured it on his head," Jesus's head. "And there were some," not one, "there were some that had indignation within themselves and said, Why was this waste of ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her." I just want to stop here. It's just really ludicrous when you look at the gospel narrative, how Jesus sets out on his mission and he's grabbing people who's fishing, hanging around, not doing much meaningful, and "Come follow me." And he makes them disciples. And now all of a sudden, they're so self-righteous, they can judge him. That's a heck of a mentality. Let's return. Verse 6. "And Jesus said, Let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. For ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good. But me ye have not always. She hath done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying." "Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. And Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went unto the chief priests to betray him unto them. So, of course, he was one of the ones that had indignation. And once Jesus said what he said in defense of the woman, then Judas went and did his work. So it seems quite evident that Jesus' special relationship with women, as well as issues involving money, caused envy among those who claimed to follow Jesus. These persons wanted what Jesus had. Therefore, compared to Jesus, as they're comparing themselves to him, they perceived that they had less or nothing. And this is so despite the fact that Jesus declared that those who followed him would one day do greater works. But they didn't want greater works. They wanted Jesus's works. And since they couldn't be Jesus, they wanted to betray Jesus to soothe their envy. Now let us consider the fulfillment of this prophetic scene in the following questions. How many people are envious of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan because of his lifelong ministry of 60 plus years? Especially when theirs might have fizzled out 50 years ago, or may not have even gotten started. How many people are envious of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan because of his global popularity and the high esteem he receives from various leaders throughout the world? How many people are envious of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan because of the many people who have committed their lives to helping him? How many people are envious of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan because he does not take their personal enemies as his own enemies? How many people are envious of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan because he has wives and children by his wives? How many people are envious of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan because he has money to improve the quality of life for himself, his family, and others? Now, to each question, we can probably answer many people.